And we're here today, guys, with Dimotai, the composer. You may have seen his videos on YouTube. He's got a bunch of stuff up there, some really amazing stuff. And I'm Ryan Peters, which you already know. Today, we're going to have a chat with him and get to learn a bit about him. How are you, Dimotai?
Yeah, good. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. It's getting late here in Australia. The time zones are always a little bit all off with everyone. And especially now, like with composers, right? They're never in one spot. So like you're talking to a whole bunch of different people and you're trying to line up time zones. So it's really weird. But the other thing is composers stay up late. I don't know if you are a late night worker, but a lot of the composers I have found do like to stay up late at night and work. Is that what you generally like to do?
Yeah, that's very dependent. I feel like, feeling the passion for a song, like got a lot of ideas, and I can't put it off for another day. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, let's get into having a chat. What I normally like to start doing is let composers introduce themselves. Because sometimes, people introduce other people like musicians or, anyone for that matter, and they completely go off point and they only talk about really what they want to focus on. So if you had to introduce yourself to someone and what you're known for and what you kind of do in the music world, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm probably best known for, the composition and production and the more cinematic genre. More specifically, it's called trailer music. And also, I did come from a EDM kind of background, so I had to stick with that. But yeah, nowadays I would just make EDM music, orchestral, cinematic, music as well. Both of them I do it on FL Studio, and I think that's just really about it.
Yeah, cool. So you like combining the two, and it's funny now that all these different styles are kind of merging in a way. Like I heard the term rock orchestra be used in a video. I think it was by the guys who started Audio Machine. I was watching an interview with one of those guys, and it's just funny, like seeing these classical instruments being used in like a different way. I always think it's pretty interesting and very original what they're doing. Hey.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. We've also got a bit of lag because of our Australia's not very good internet and being on the other side of the world, but that doesn't matter.
Sure, yeah.
So look, I wanted to talk about, because on my channel, I like to dedicate a lot of the content and information about educating people and like showing people different things. And I put a whole bunch of things about composition and guitar playing and just music in general. But I want to know what got you into composition first. Where did it all start and why?
Yeah, so in my youth personally, I think the most significant part of music, and that was I started playing piano at the age of 4 or 5. I will say maybe it's part of the whole Asian culture that I was growing up in. A lot of those parents sent them the children to play piano. But yeah, I started playing piano. I found I guess a natural liking for that, but only after a few years of practice piano actually became kind of boring. I treated it more as labor and like a not less than an enjoyable hobby, right? So there was at one point I remember it was probably like 5 or 6 years after I was consistent practicing for 2 or 3 hours a day or whatever I had to do. I would go, myself off to quote unquote call it like daydreaming. I just kind of like daydream in like the music sense.
Yeah. Instead
of actually practicing for pieces, I just play little melodies or and at the end of the day, it's really just improvised pieces, right? I figured out what I was doing, playing simple melodies that I've liked. I just always enjoyed that better than just straight up playing piano. But then after that whole, I guess at one point I remember after I think 11 years, that's how long I've played piano in my total youth. I completely quit, but midway through that too, I did start to get into composition, and that's just I'm so sure exactly what specific point, but I've heard a few songs before. I was like, maybe I can make something like this. So did a ton of research. I was like, okay, FL Studio, such thing as digital audio workstations. And then, listen to a few artists, started specifically making EDM though. That's the specific genre that I made back in the day. And then, after practice years and years, the rest is more,
You've,
related just to getting better and getting into orchestral music later on. So
you've gotten to where you are, into where you are now.
yeah,
It's a story I hear from a lot of composers. They start out on, an acoustic instrument, guitar, piano, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realize, oh, cool, there's something else we can do with music, and like the skills that we've learned are still useful. And I know for me, getting into composition, a big thing was technology. Like I'm a bit of I love my computers and, just mucking around with stuff. So I feel like composition now in this modern sense is combining both. Like you mentioned, you used FL Studios to start off with. And yeah, a lot of people on another topic hearing when they first get into it, it's either FL Studios or Reaper. Have you heard that one before? People when they first
yeah, of course.
yeah.
I will say that I probably personally chose FL Studio over any other DAW, just because I was in that whole EDM scene, back in the day.
For sure.
Right, every DAW at the end of the day has their own pros and cons. Right, FL Studio was great for sampling, and that's what a lot of people did in EDM.
Absolutely.
That whole EDM genre. There's more. I know Cubase. Ableton's also a very popular one. Reaper is I would say it's a little less popular. I know people use that Logic Pro on Macs. Stuff like that. But yeah.
Absolutely, for sure. So look, delving down into inspirations as well, who were your big inspirations? Like, even on like piano, what got you through piano, and then what got you into composition, and, continuing where you are today, what keeps you inspired?
For sure. So, during my whole piano, I guess, practicing, I was really just playing classical music, because that's, I guess, what everyone really taught, at that age. I honestly did not have that much of a inspiration. I just really that I played pieces, and in general too, I did dislike it. That's why I kind of moved on to that whole composition theme. But once I started composing, right, once again, I did say I make two genres, mainly EDM and orchestral. I listen to a lot of genres in each, and I will say over my years, it's always changing in terms of just my inspirations.
Yeah,
I will say two great underrated artists right now I'm probably listening to is for EDM. It's a very underrated artist named Far Out. Right, it's not very popular in terms of just audience members, but he makes great music. I know he's trying to combine some orchestral elements too. In terms of cinematic, right, there's a lot. The most common ones I sometimes listen to in my free time, there's like Thomas Bergerson from Steps from Hell. Mark Petrie's a very common one. I think Harry Lightfoot, another great one. Rock Narden or Sam Stalin. But today I do listen to another person named David, I think it's Chappell. I'm not so sure how to pronounce his last name, but I listen to him quite a lot too. He's also kind of underrated in my opinion, especially on his just his pure audience fan base when it comes to like this other known artists out there. But I would say those are my two current right now. It's just I might have a little bit of some might hear some little bit of styles from each one.
And so many like this little genre of modern epic orchestral kind of thing, right? It's kind of niche, but so big as well in the same way. And I suppose for that kind of thing, YouTube is such like a big place for it. Hey, like so many people now are just uploading on to YouTube, because you can get all this stuff now. Home studios, people are doing on a laptop with a pair of Apple AirPods or whatnot, and they're making it sound great. So it's just amazing, like what is out there. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you're saying, like Rock Narden and Thomas Bergenson and Dave Chappelle. Was that who else you were saying?
I think so. His name is David Chappell. I'm not so sure if it's pronounced Chappell or Chappell. I'm not so sure, but yeah.
Not Dave Chappelle, the comedian. He doesn't do music, but it's like, they've got all this stuff up on YouTube, and a lot of them as well will appear on YouTube and talk and explain things and do a whole bunch of other things. And it's just really amazing to see what this kind of stuff allows and offers online now, isn't it?
Yeah, tech is definitely, it's, I'm also hosting, in my personal life too. Tech is just another hobby for me, right? In general, I am a
Mm.
cybersecurity major, to be fair, in the current university I'm going to. But next 5, 10 years, tech is basically going to take over. I will also say, right, I know I might get some hate for this, but I do think it's true that classical kind of handwriting in terms of composition on paper will simply just, I would say, die out, slowly phase out, really just because tech will become easier and easier, later on, even right now, even you can have a whole, like a VST, there's cinematic studio strings and all very common plugins that can literally bring a whole orchestra into your PC, where it was actually probably thought of impossible 10, 15 years ago, for sure, right? And those times when people were making music, they would have to spend $10,000 or so to hire an entire
Yeah.
orchestra for a day to have them play
Yeah.
a song. And now you can have it at your fingertips for $400, and who knows, 10 years down the line too. So yeah, it's definitely good that it's kind of inevitable too, but
it's amazing how like it's all developing, and like, like you said, 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't as accessible. I always like to use the word accessible, like, with pricing and with quality and like availability online, like, going.
Yeah.
I suppose YouTube was still around then. I think YouTube was 2005. Don't quote me on that, but it's just amazing to see this develop, and it's great to hear a bunch of people putting stuff up and people having a go, which is really cool.
Yeah. Sure.
So I've got one more question, then we're going to take a quick break. For you people on YouTube, it'll be like not even a break, like 10 seconds. But as I said, I like to inspire and educate younger composers. Would you have any words of wisdom or advice, or just something for them to keep going? And what kept you going when you were starting out, you were learning this stuff, and you just thought, oh, I'm never going to get there. Were you ever like that? What kept you going, or what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. So in terms of just advice to, I will say a lot of, you can hear tons of advice from different composers. I'm sure there's always that type of advice. I will want to say, there's going to be 2 points I want to give today. As actually maybe a more of a brutally honest type of, advice. But first thing I do want to mention is to never rely on another artist in the music industry for help. That's just one thing I personally learned for sure is, the best music you make has to always be done on your own time. Right now, when I opened up my DAW for the first time, in case it's just FL Studio, it was a complete mess. The whole UI looked, very confusing. I had no idea what a whole mixer was, what a whole channel rack. I had no idea how to use any of the software, anything on the whole software at all. And generally, like in comparison, I could say it's like using Windows or Linux for the first time when you've been using another operating system. It's the same type of concept. But point being, nowadays is I hear a lot of people, try to ask, oh, maybe they see a composer they like, oh, can you teach me how to do this, or can you teach me how to do that? They can, they can try to give you as much advice as possible. They can give you feedback on the track, right? But you can never expect someone to just straight up teach you for hours, how to do this and that. No one's going to be able to do that, right? I know there's that, however, I do know that there's that, that I guess concept where you can hire someone or pay, and that goes into like whole university. That counts as well. You're really technically paying for some sort of service or some education. It helps you for sure. Definitely speeds up a lot of stuff. I can tell that's for sure. But you can, at the end of the day, you will always be able to find this knowledge for free. Right? YouTube is your best friend. There's tons of Discord servers too, where you can just join them, ask for feedback or whatever. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, you just, I would recommend people to focus on, or really try to only think in a mindset where they can only cause themselves to improve and no one else can. Right. And they are the center because they're the composers, right? So yeah, that's just one thing. It may be a unique kind of take on a few things about that. But the second thing I would mention too is digital audios, workstations, using them, or just making music in general does take a lot of time. And here's another thing, right? I do see that's little, I think, underlooked, right? A lot of people will tend to buy tons of software, hardware, or anything around their whole setups and everything. I will say, that, I won't argue if that's necessary or not. That's a whole different topic. But I will also say that there are a lot of composers I see that tend to rush that in a sense where they're buying tons of software, tons of hardware that they don't maybe even need, right? Maybe, you can tell they have so much stuff they have, literally just in their setup, but there's a lot of basics where they haven't mastered yet. And the only reason for that is because it costs a lot of money. Okay, unless you're like some millionaire that can you burn a ton of cash. Okay,
Absolutely.
but most people aren't like that. So yeah, it's just be very, very frugal with the stuff you buy, because it's I will say a lot of people that are starting out aren't rich. That's just what it is. Right? People in the music, and it's hard. It's very competitive. But when you tend to spend your time on one software, and then you want to, let's just say, upgrade. Like for me personally, I upgraded from Nucleus Core to Cinematic Studio Strings. I would say that was probably my biggest upgrade I've ever made. Actually, I used that today, Cinematic Studio Strings. I got Nucleus first because it was apparently a really good bundle for everything. You got woodwinds, brass, and everything all in one. Obviously, unfortunately, it's not the best in terms of quality because it's only $500, and that's kind of a thing with all-in-one bundles. But once I moved to Cinematic Studio Strings, and then there's a separate brass, and some separate brass, you got also vocals and woodwinds as well. I found out that it's just for example, the legato in the Nucleus the software, it was just not enough for me. Right? I was using it, I thought, to my best potential, and I was like, okay, that's the only software I bought. I've been using this for 2 years. When I upgrade, that's when it's a good time to upgrade. But there's a lot of people who tend to bomb a lot of things on, this, that, I want to try to get that, and they can't, I guess, afford it in a sense. But yeah, that's basically the other main two things I can really think of. I also, as I said, took more of a brutally honest kind of ordeal on this. You do, and honestly, you hear all those things all the time where people are like, be yourself or make good music. Don't tell people let you down or something. That's true, but I just wanted to give a unique take.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. You need some level of inspiration and motivation, because anyone can learn this if they put the time and effort into it.
Yeah.
But to progress, you need the honest feedback, and you need to be a self-learner, and do all those things. And especially with this kind of stuff, as we mentioned before, there's amazing resources online, as you said, for free. You just have to spend a bit of time. But absolutely, you need the hard truth, but then you need don't listen to the haters as well. Hey.
yeah Both sides. Always need both sides. You can have much or too much, but
absolutely, constructive criticism.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break. For us, for you guys, it'll be not even 10 seconds, and we'll be back with Dimotai having a little bit more of a chat about his music and everything else music. Stay tuned. And we're back, guys. We just had our quick little break, but for you, it was instant. That's the power of the internet. Again, we're here back with Dimotai talking about music and whatnot. But I want to go a little bit away from music for a sec, Dimotai, and ask, what are some of your non-musical hobbies, or anything non-musical you do, or are you just in your bat cave just composing music 24/7?
Yeah. So I would say, I do have two, I would say, significant, others, I guess, career paths, you can call it that, or just hobbies. I am technically studying, I'm a full-time student at Penn State University right now. I'm a cybersecurity major. But in my past, I would say I had equal passion in music just as well as like tech, right? I used to, I'm a very avid software developer. I love to, program stuff. In the past, I was also pretty good, I would say, not good, but pretty, I would say invested, right? That's a better word. Yeah. Pretty invested gamer. I used to play a lot of video games, but there was a lot of correlation with that. yeah. But I was 14, 15 years old, so I hosted a Minecraft server. Also one of those guys. Yeah, that's one thing. Another thing I would say is I am also very into the business world of things. There's more specifically, there's stocks, options. I do a lot of trading. There is a separate like a startup kind of thing I'm doing with a few friends. That's just a little different of a thing, but if I were to categorize those, right, my two main hobbies, probably just besides music, tech, anything tech related, or just investing related. That's probably the two I can think of. Yeah.
So you're like me, you're, music and technology combining for composition. It works out pretty well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the exact same. I haven't gotten into investing yet. You'll have to teach me, but
I would say it's tech and music. It's actually a very, very unique, separate of I guess two separate skills in a sense. There are many composers I know, musicians, producers, composers. They don't know how to use anything tech, and having that skill set definitely. It sounds very contradictory, and a lot of skills are completely different, right? But it can combining them together can for sure help you so much in so many
absolutely, especially in this modern day and age. Hey. But yeah, all right. Well, let's throw it back in, getting into the music. That's what you're known for. We can do maybe we'll do another interview on like your programming and developing skills one day. That's for my second YouTube account.
Yeah, for sure.
I like most musicians, and I'm sure a bunch of people watching this. The nitty gritty musical stuff is kind of what you're looking at. So if you had to get into that, I know it's like a huge area, but like you mentioned before, you use FL Studios. What other software are you using? Like, do you have favorite samples, any type of like favorite plugins, any hardware, anything like that, getting into the nitty gritty of like your software and hardware and what you actually use to make music?
For sure. I can actually give you, I guess, like the right breakdown. There's nothing more precise you can get with that, honestly. I would say a lot of my power and just money spent really just goes to my software. In terms of hardware, I'll go over that real quick first. I kind of had a gaming PC back then. I'm on one right now. I did upgrade the RAM a lot because that is something you will need for music production.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
especially using Cubase. Cubase sucks your RAM.
Oh, no. Yeah, for sure. I will also say I think I did upgrade the SSDs, for storing a lot of libraries and for just general faster loading time when it comes to using your libraries on FL Studio. But that's that for I would just say the actual hardware. For speakers too, I really don't have too many fancy ones, right? This headset, it works really just fine. I think specifically it's the HyperX Stinger. I do have Harman Kardon's as other speakers too. However, I know there's definitely better ones for mastering and mixing, right? It's like this Yamaha series. And I know also in general, when you're talking about speakers, you do want speakers that sound actually bad on purpose, so that if the mix sounds good on that, it should sound good on every other speaker. That is a good philosophy to have in terms of mixing with speakers. But yeah, that's basically that. Now, when it comes to the software, though, I do use FL Studio, full term stands for Fruity Loop Studio. I've been using that entire 7 years of composition production. For EDM, right, I actually started using Silent. Silent's a very popular synthesizer. I've played around with Nexus and Serum. Those are also two great ones. For sample packs, I love Cashmere. Cashmere is actually very great. He's a very underrated producer when it comes to his audience, but he really does a lot by giving out. He's probably the only one I know that gives out samples, and he does a lot basically for the industry when it comes to specific composers. Right. Besides that, as Silent, one is a synthesizer. You gotta add, I guess presets. Right. In terms of presets, you can really find them anywhere. And I just kind of go on YouTube sometimes. I find a free, list of 30s, zip file, or like a zip package of 40, 50 VSTs.
It's amazing how much people are sharing these days, isn't it? They just
and amazing. I can just download all of them, and I can just find which one sounds good, which one doesn't sound good.
Absolutely.
There always be good ones you're looking for, but I do always I've put emphasis on Cashmere sample packs because his are very insane. For I think now you can actually get them on Splice for a really ridiculously cheap price in comparison to how much he offers. Right, there's one volume can have, one volume could have anything from orchestral to EDM, and in fact, all my songs I use this day almost always will have Cashmere. I don't think I've made a song without them. Right?
Oh, great.
In terms of libraries, I want to forget that, right?
No one wants to forget that.
Cinematic Studio Strings, that's a good one. Cinematic Studio Brass is also one I've been messing around with. I did not really, I would say, enjoy that as much as something like Metropolis Arc, though. That's also a great one for brass, specifically high end, like big brass. it's the strings and the brass. When it comes to woodwinds, I kind of just use my old Nucleus samples that I had from my first big plugin that I bought, which was Nucleus. And I also use a little bit of Cinematic Studio woodwinds, a little bit of that. A lot for vocals too. I think right now I really have Jaeger vocals is a very common one. Sometimes that does get a little overrated though, because that's the same, I think her name is actually Mareth. I can't really pronounce her last name, but she does all the vocals for that. There's a Rodo Ethnic Bulgarian Choir. That's also great. The latest track that was published 9 months ago, as of now, does have that. And there's like, I forgot what the name is, but there's some of those smaller, vocal, like more like FX kind of plugins. And when it comes to like drums, Cerberus was one I actually recently got. Great drums. For FX specifically, there's Juggernaut, and I think Ava Instinct is also a great one. But those all run on Contact, right? So those are, Contact is kind of like the standard, I would say, all in one, like
Absolutely.
the source is like a VST that can load any major library. A lot of Spitfire plugins I know are also good too. I personally only have like the free piano and some other free ones. That is that. Not as experienced into Spitfire things, but and the last thing I would say for like mastering stuff like that, Ozone is great. I use that all the time for like the final mastering. I use a lot of OTT. OTT is also great cheap or not even cheap. Sorry, it's free, so it's actually great. It's free. Then besides that, I really just use the plugins that come with, let's just say I want a really simple equalizer or EQ, not a full load Ozone equalizer, so I can just load in the FL one that has the panoramic EQ and just add stuff in there. FL reverb, FL delay. I've been using a little bit of like Valhalla shimmer, but yeah, no, my library is always constantly growing. But yeah, that's about it. I feel like for all the major ones I use, at least.
Sounds like there's some great libraries in there, and and it's so many people use them as well because they're great. It's kind of one of those things for beginning composers as well, to learn like the different libraries and find out what sounds are what and what works for them as well. Because there's always different vibes is a bad word, but different styles. You could have like epic hybrid, which I know Jaeger's really, really good for. But then you could have like Appassionata Spitfire, which is more silky legato strings. So it's it's really good to understand them and hear what different ones have, and what category do you fit into. And it sounds like you've got a lot of those hard-hitting ones that are, made for trailers or epic hybrid music, which I suppose is what you mentioned, a lot of what you're doing, and EDM and hybrid classical music. And so I wanted to have a touch on further, because I feel like it's important for people to talk about it. But what are your goals for the future? If you had to, look 10 or 15 or 30, you're a young guy, so you can envision as much as you want. What do you see yourself, or what do you want to see yourself doing, in the future, be long term or short term future?
Yeah, that's also a great topic. Everyone also always has to think of their future, right?
Yeah.
But for me personally, I would say, I do go to school at Penn State for cybersecurity. The reason why, I had a lot of influence of this decision from, my parents and my friends. But the music industry is hard. That's what it is. You could be the top person and whatever. It just simply doesn't compare to something like, the steady income and the whole benefits of something like tech, right? And that's just what it is. But for me, luckily, right, I was a person that was also interested in both, right? I was just as interested in music as tech. So it was just like an opportunity that, I could take advantage of. So, I go to school here for cybersecurity. I plan to get a degree, finish my bachelor's in cybersecurity. And I, thought to myself, this would just be a great foundation for a steady income for a career, right? So the unfortunate, you can call it like an unfortunate truth for, I guess, music creators too. It's a huge struggle for that, but the simple truth is you can easily come out of cybersecurity or any other tech field in that with just earning 80,000, 90,000 a year of steady income. And that's just that's the starting salary for a lot of these guys. A cybersecurity analyst down the road can easily make 300, 400K. There's a lot of, it's just a very booming industry. And the thing about tech is you don't have to be very good at it, right? You only need to be like the top 20%, 10% of the whole skill set of majority applicants for any like typical job to get into, or have a job in that field. So that's like the big, I guess, reason why I'm taking this path. I also, do music in my free time. But I think the big goal for me is, if I ever, let's just say, break out, that's probably not going to happen, but to say anyone, let's just say, yeah, if I get famous, if I, let's just say I'm able to support myself, right, with just doing music, and I can always, just put that career path away right after I graduate and just go full on music, right? But if I don't, I can always have that career and degree to fall back on, because if I have the skill anyway, right, it's best to take advantage of it and have that backup plan just in case that does happen. So now I'm not saying don't follow your dreams, but that's just more realistic for me.
If we had to think dream big in music, where would you love to end up? What would be your dream? Doing movies or staying with what you're doing now and making money off your own releases?
Yeah, that's a very hard question, I would say. I do know some things that I probably wouldn't prefer. That's one thing I know, right? I've
what you don't want.
Yeah. In general, I'll say there's a lot of people that do ghost production, right? The more I think about that whole topic in general, like it's great. You can earn a lot of income off of that. I know that for sure. It's just kind of feels contradictory to a lot of things, and just even like the whole basic concepts or fundamentals of being a self-composer, just making music yourself. I just don't really agree with a lot of things that's going on there. And honestly, in the back of my mind, I feel like it's sometimes just if you can't, let's just say, maybe not get that attention or so, you kind of fall back onto ghost production. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a very good business, right? You make a lot of money doing something like ghost production, but it just doesn't feel right to me. You're making your music, you should always get credit for it, no matter. Money should never play a factor, right? In your own music. But that's just something I know I won't want to do. When it comes to some things I might do, music, I'm already writing a lot of more specifically I write cinematic, right, or trailer music, so movie trailers, TV shows, a lot of that stuff is where my music is currently targeting towards. I'm signed with a few labels that are directly in that type of category. But I will be brutally honest, I don't even know myself yet. I will say I moved to orchestral more. I've put a lot more focus onto creating those type of tracks, is because I really didn't have any success in making EDM significant success, fortunately. But anything in music, what I know for sure is at the end of the day, if I'm doing music, I will always want to be on the composition and production end and make something that I made. I'm proud of it. It's unique, and it doesn't matter, what anyone else thinks. At the end of the day, it's my music. Right? So that's just. And I'm willing to share it with people, and that's what you also want to do as an artist. But that's about it, right? But more, I would say, is just where the wind takes me, in a sense, with that.
Absolutely, free flowing, just going where the wind takes you. Hey,
yeah,
cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there. Just before we do you have anything in the works in the future that you can talk about, or just still, amazing, great releases from you just coming out, your own personal compositions, EDM and classical? What's in the works for Dimotai?
Yeah, so right now, I will say in the past, I guess year or so, I did kind of I was take a more personal break on composition. But just recently, I am currently working on an album. There's a lot of these songs will be selected for for trailers, and that thing I won't. Once I get that released, then that whole information will come out. But yeah, there's a lot of orchestral stuff I am working on right now. But in what I know for sure, it's gonna be an album of. Not so sure about that. How many songs though? It could be anywhere from 6 to 12. But yeah. Sorry, a lot of new orchestral tracks. I've also, me personally, even though I do a lot of music, I've probably been doing it for almost a decade now, I still have a lot to learn. I recently only discovered that there was a huge dynamic CC function in Cinematic Studio Strings for FL Studio, and I'm taking advantage of that. strings sound better than ever, right? You got the whole sustain pedals. I only learned that too. But yeah, it's just learning as I go and still, right? And taking these things in. But right now it's really just an album. I feel like it's really my biggest thing right now.
Well, I'm sure your listeners and my viewers, you know, getting ready for that and can't wait. And, you know, I'm sure as soon as that comes out, that'll be up on your socials, and we can definitely go check that out. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to it. So yeah, just quickly, what we'll put your socials in the link in the description below. So go check out Dimotai if you haven't checked out his stuff before. Where can we find you? We know we've got a YouTube account. Is that the best way to keep up to date with all your stuff?
Yeah, so I would say my most active portfolio is on my YouTube channel. I do also have like I think a link tree where I also did just recently finish my website, so or like a whole revamp of it. Technically I had one before, but that one was a little ugly. But that should have almost everything on there, so I just made it pretty accessible. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's all going to be in the description below, guys. Make sure to go check that out. His music's absolutely amazing, and I can't recommend it enough, so go check that out. Again, thank you, Dimotai, for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope everyone at home has got something out of it. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, for sure.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks, guys. Make sure you go check out my other videos, and again, Dimotai's videos. And until the next video, we'll see you later. Thank you.